The message came on a cold morning in December. It arrived through the deep space relay station near Mars, and within hours, every government on Earth had seen it. The Galactic Assembly, a group of 12 powerful alien species, was summoning humanity to answer for its crimes. The crimes were simple. Humans had grown too fast. They had spread to too many worlds. They had built too many ships. The elder races of the galaxy did not like this. They had ruled the stars for millions of years, and they did not want competition. In the underground bunker beneath Sol, the United Earth Council gathered to discuss their response. Generals sat next to scientists. Politicians argued with diplomats. Everyone had an opinion about what to do. "We should send our best negotiator," said one minister. "Someone who can make peace." "Peace?" laughed a general. "They don't want peace. They want us on our knees." The argument went on for hours. Finally, an old woman at the end of the table raised her hand. She was Admiral Beek Suni, the commander of Earth's defense forces. She had led humanity through 3 wars and had never lost. "I know who we should send," she said quietly. Everyone stopped talking. "There is a man," Admiral Beek continued. "His name is Park Do-hyun. He is a lieutenant colonel in our special forces. He survived the Titan uprising. He led the defense during the Europa siege. He's not a diplomat." "Then why send him?" asked the minister. Admiral Beek smiled, but her eyes were cold. "Because the aliens expect us to send someone weak. Someone who will beg and plead. They expect a sheep." She paused. "Let us send them a wolf instead." 2 days later, Park Do-hyun received his orders. He was a tall man with short black hair and a face that rarely showed emotion. There were scars on his hands and arms, memories of battles that most people only read about in history books. He was 42 years old, but he moved like someone much younger. His body was a weapon, trained through decades of combat. Do-hyun read his orders twice. He was to travel to Nexus Prime, a space station where the Galactic Assembly met. He was to represent all of humanity. He was not to start a war, but he was also not to show weakness. "Understood," he said to no one in particular. He packed a small bag. He did not need much. A change of clothes. A tablet with information about the 12 alien species. A photograph of his parents, both long dead. That was all. At the spaceport, he met his partner for this mission. Her name was Yoon Mi-rae, and she was a captain in military intelligence. She was younger than Do-hyun, maybe 30, with sharp eyes that noticed everything. She spoke 14 alien languages fluently. Where Do-hyun was a weapon, Mi-rae was a tool of a different kind. She could read people, human and alien alike, the way others read books. "Lieutenant Colonel," she said, saluting. "Captain," he replied. "Have you read the briefing?" 3 times. The assembly has 12 member species. The Velith run the administration. The Kron are made of living rock and think we are insects. The Thazari live in water and believe they are the most intelligent beings in the universe. The Morkai are predators who hunt other species for sport. She paused. "None of them like us." "Good," said Do-hyun. "Then we know where we stand." Their ship was called the Hanggang, named after the river that flowed through Seoul. It was not a warship, but it was fast and strong. The crew was small, only 20 people, all of them military. They knew this mission was dangerous. They had volunteered anyway. The journey to Nexus Prime would take 3 weeks. During that time, Do-hyun studied everything he could about the alien races. He watched recordings of past assembly meetings. He memorized the names and faces of important leaders. He learned their customs, their weaknesses, their fears. Mi-rae watched him work. "You prepare like you are going to war," she said one evening. "I am," Do-hyun replied without looking up. The council said we should not start a fight. I will not start anything." He finally met her eyes. "But I will finish whatever they start." Mireille nodded slowly. She was beginning to understand why Admiral Beak had chosen this man. On the 15th day of their journey, they received a transmission from Nexus Prime. It was a formal welcome message, filled with polite words that meant nothing. But between the lines, Mireille could read the truth. "They think we are coming to surrender," she said. "Let them think that," said Do-hyun. "What happens when they realize they are wrong?" Do-hyun looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, 12 alien species were waiting to judge humanity. They had lived among the stars for millions of years. They had technology that humans could barely understand. They believed they were superior in every way. They were about to learn something new. "When they realize they are wrong," Do-hyun said slowly, "they will have a choice. They can accept us as equals, or they can try to destroy us." He turned to face Mireille. "Either way, they will never forget this day." The hanging flew on through the darkness of space, carrying 2 humans toward an uncertain future. Behind them, Earth waited and hoped. Ahead of them, the galaxy waited and watched. Park Do-hyun did not know if he would survive this mission, but he knew one thing for certain. He would not kneel. He would not beg. And if the aliens wanted a war, he would show them exactly what humanity was capable of. The summons had been sent. Now the answer was coming. Nexus Prime was bigger than anything Do-hyun had ever seen. It was not just a space station. It was a small world, spinning slowly in the darkness between stars. Millions of beings from hundreds of species lived there. Ships came and went like insects around a hive. Lights glittered across its surface like stars themselves. The hanging approached slowly, following the instructions given by traffic control. Mireille translated the alien commands while Do-hyun watched through the main window. He said nothing, but his eyes missed nothing. "Impressive," Mireille admitted. "It is big," Do-hyun agreed. "Big things fall hard." They docked at a port on the station's outer ring. The airlock opened with a hiss, and Do-hyun stepped onto Nexus Prime for the first time. The air smelled strange, a mixture of chemicals and alien scents that his nose did not recognize. The gravity was lighter than Earth, maybe 80%. He adjusted his walk without thinking about it. A group of aliens waited for them. They were Velith, tall creatures with bodies like insects. They had 4 arms and heads that turned in ways human necks could not manage. Their eyes were large and black, without any emotion that Do-hyun could read. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," said the lead Velith. Its voice was high and clicking, but Do-hyun's translator turned the words into clear Korean. "We are honored to receive the representatives of Earth." The words were polite. The tone was not. "Thank you for your welcome," Mireille replied smoothly. "We are grateful for the Assembly's invitation." The Velith made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Follow us. Your quarters have been prepared." They walked through corridors filled with aliens of every kind. Some were small and fast, running between legs like animals. Others were huge, taking up entire hallways by themselves. Many stopped to look at the humans. Some pointed. Some laughed. A few made gestures that Do-hyun recognized as insults, even without translation. He kept walking. His face showed nothing. Their quarters were in a section of the station, called the Primitive Wing. It was where new species were housed, species that the elder races did not yet consider worthy of respect. The rooms were small and dark. The beds were too short. The food provided was barely fit for animals. Mireille looked around with disgust. "This is deliberate." "Of course it is," said Do-hyun. He sat down on the too small bed and closed his eyes. "They want us to complain. They want us to feel small and weak. That way, when the negotiations begin, we will already be beaten in our minds. Should we protest?" "No," Dahyun opened his eyes. Let them think their tricks are working. Comfort does not win battles. That evening, they attended the formal reception. It was held in a great hall at the center of Nexus Prime, a room so large that clouds actually formed near the ceiling. Representatives from all 12 council species were present, along with thousands of observers from lesser races. Dahyun wore his military dress uniform. It was simple compared to the elaborate costumes of the aliens around him, but he wore it with the pride of a soldier who had earned every medal on his chest. Mireille wore a similar uniform, her rank and achievements displayed for all to see. The aliens watched them enter. Whispers spread through the crowd like waves. Look how small they are, someone said. Their lifespan is barely 100 years. Children, really. Why did the assembly even bother summoning them? Dahyun heard every word through his translator. He filed them away in his memory and kept walking. The 12 council representatives stood on a raised platform at the far end of the hall. Dahyun studied each one as he approached. The Kron were massive beings made of living stone. They moved slowly but with tremendous power. Their spokesman looked at Dahyun the way a human might look at an insect. The Thesari floated in special tanks of water, their bodies beautiful and strange. They believed themselves to be the most intelligent species in the galaxy. Their representative watched Dahyun with cold curiosity. The Morkai were the ones that worried him most. They were reptiles, but calling them that felt wrong. They were predators in the purest sense, built to hunt and kill. Their scales were dark red, almost black. Their teeth were visible even when their mouths were closed. Their leader was called Haifang Rithkor, and he looked at the humans the way a wolf looks at sheep. One by one, the council members spoke. They welcomed humanity to the galactic community. They spoke of peace and cooperation. They smiled with mouths full of teeth and eyes full of contempt. Dahyun listened to every word and believed none of them. When the speeches ended, the representatives came down to mingle with the guests. This was the true test. Dahyun knew they would try to intimidate him, to measure him, to find his weaknesses. Haifang Rithkor approached first. He was tall, nearly 3 meters, and he moved with the grace of a born killer. His followers spread out behind him, cutting off any escape. So, Rithkor said, his voice a deep growl. This is what Earth sends to speak for them. A small creature with soft skin. He leaned close, so close that Dahyun could smell the meat on his breath. Your species bleeds easily. I have seen the medical reports. One cut, and you leak red water until you die. Dahyun did not step back. He did not blink. He looked up at the massive predator and spoke calmly. So does yours. I have seen the medical reports too. The room went silent. Rithkor's eyes widened. For a long moment, he stared at the small human who had just threatened him. Then, slowly, his mouth twisted into something like a smile. Perhaps, he said, Earth is not as boring as I thought. He turned and walked away. His followers looked confused, uncertain what had just happened. Mireille appeared at Dahyun's side. Her face was pale. You just threatened the most dangerous predator in the galaxy. No, said Dahyun. I reminded him that predators can also become prey. He looked around the great hall at all the aliens who were pretending not to watch him. They thought humanity was weak. They thought this would be easy. Park. Dahyun smiled. They had no idea what was coming. The assembly chamber was a vast circular room with seats rising up like a stadium. Thousands of aliens filled those seats, watching as the 12 council members took their places on the central platform. Dahyun and Mireille stood alone in the middle of the floor, surrounded by species that had ruled the stars since before humans learned to make fire. Grand. Arbiter Veleth floated in her water tank at the head of the council. She was old, even by the Sari standards, and her scales had faded to a pale silver. But her eyes were sharp, and her mind was sharper. She had led the assembly for 200 years. She had crushed rebellions and ended wars. To her, humanity was just another problem to be solved. "We will now hear the matter of Earth," she announced. Her voice was musical but cold. "The humans have expanded beyond their permitted boundaries. They have built military vessels without authorization. They have claimed worlds that belong to the assembly." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Do-hyun stood perfectly still and listened. "The council has discussed this matter," Velith continued. "We have decided to offer humanity a choice. You may accept protected status. This is a great honor, rarely given to young species." Myrae leaned close to Do-hyun. "Protected status means we give up everything," she whispered. "Our fleet, our colonies, our freedom." "I know," Do-hyun replied quietly. "Keep translating." Velith was explaining the terms now. Under protected status, humanity would surrender all military vessels larger than a patrol boat. They would abandon all colonies outside their home system. They would pay tribute to the elder races each year. In exchange, the assembly would protect Earth from outside threats dotted with slavery wrapped in pretty words. "If you refuse," Velith said, her voice growing harder, "the assembly will have no choice but to consider humanity a threat. Trade will be forbidden. Travel will be restricted. And if necessary, military action will be taken." The chamber fell silent. Every alien was watching the two humans, waiting to see them break. Do-hyun took a step forward. "No." The single word echoed through the chamber. Velith's fins fluttered in surprise. The other council members shifted in their seats. This was not how young species were supposed to behave. "You do not understand your position," Velith said slowly, as if speaking to a child. "Earth has 47 ships. The assembly has 47,000. You have colonized 8 worlds. We control 8,000. You are not negotiating from strength, human. You are begging for survival." "I understand perfectly," Do-hyun replied. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "You see a young species and assume we are weak. You see a small fleet and assume easy victory." He paused. "You have not studied us at all." He pulled a small device from his pocket. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber, showing images and videos that made the aliens lean forward in their seats. "This is the Titan Uprising," Do-hyun said. The hologram showed a burning colony, humans fighting against humans in the cold darkness of space. 2,000 Marines against 50,000 rebels. The battle lasted 6 months. The Marines did not retreat. They did not surrender. They held the line until reinforcements arrived. The image changed. This is the Europa siege, a single destroyer, the Incheon, facing an enemy dreadnought 10 times its size. The Incheon's weapons were destroyed. Its engines were failing. 300 civilians were trapped on a transport behind it. The hologram showed the small ship accelerating toward the massive enemy vessel. The captain ordered a ramming attack. The Incheon punched through the dreadnought's reactor. Both ships were destroyed. The civilians escaped. Silence in the chamber. Even Rethker was watching with interest now. "This is what you do not understand about humanity," Do-hyun continued. "We do not surrender. We do not run. When you push us, we push back. When you hurt us, we hurt you worse. We have fought each other for 10,000 years. We have survived ice ages and plagues and wars that killed millions. We climbed out of the mud on our own, with no help from anyone." He turned slowly, looking at each council member in turn. "You think your numbers will save you? You think your technology makes you invincible?" He shook his head. Every empire in human history thought the same thing. Every one of them fell, eventually. Usually to people they had underestimated. Velith's eyes narrowed. "Are you threatening the assembly?" "No. I am educating the assembly. Do-hyun's voice grew quieter, but somehow more dangerous. Earth does not want war. We came here hoping for peace, for trade, for friendship. But we will not buy those things with our freedom. If the assembly wants war, the assembly will get war. And when it ends, you will have won. Your fleets are larger. Your weapons are stronger. But the price you pay will be higher than you can imagine. He stepped forward, his eyes locked on Velith. We will fight you on every moon and every asteroid. We will blow up your shipyards and poison your supply lines. We will never stop. Our grandchildren will keep fighting after we are dead. You may kill us all eventually, but you will never forget the cost. The chamber was absolutely silent. Then Haifang Rethgar began to laugh. Finally, he growled. Finally, someone interesting. He rose from his seat, his massive body unfolding like a weapon being drawn. Words are easy, human. Anyone can make threats. I want to see if you can back them up. Dawn turned to face the predator. What do you propose? Rethgar's teeth gleamed. The arena, single combat. You and me. If you win, the Morkai will support your claim to equal status. If you lose, well, you will not need to worry about anything anymore. Myrae grabbed Do-hyun's arm. You can't, she hissed. He's killed dozens of opponents. He's 3 times your size. Do-hyun gently removed her hand. When? He asked Rethgar. The Morkai's smile widened. Tomorrow. Unless you need time to prepare excuses for running away. Tomorrow is fine. Do-hyun turned and began walking toward the exit. Every alien in the chamber watched him go. Myrae caught up with him in the corridor outside. This is insane. You cannot beat him in single combat. It is physically impossible. Do-hyun kept walking. Nothing is impossible. Unlikely, yes, but not impossible. He is going to kill you. Do-hyun stopped and turned to face her. For the first time since they had left Earth, she saw something like emotion in his eyes. Maybe, he said quietly, but whether I win or lose, they will never forget what they saw today. A human who stood alone against 12 empires and did not flinch. He put a hand on her shoulder. That is the message we came to deliver. Now the whole galaxy will hear it. He turned and walked away, leaving Myrae alone in the corridor with her fear and her pride. Tomorrow, the arena would decide everything. The arena was older than human civilization. It had been built when the first species learned that sometimes words were not enough. Over millions of years, countless disputes had been settled on its bloody sand. Today, it would host a new kind of battle. The stands were full. Aliens of every species had come to watch the human die. They filled the seats from floor to ceiling, talking and laughing and placing bets on how long the small creature would last. Most guessed less than a minute. A few generous souls gave him 2. Myrae sat in the front row, her hands gripped together so tightly that her knuckles were white. Next to her sat observers from the council, including Grand Arbiter Velith herself. The old Asari watched the arena floor with unreadable eyes. Your colleague is very brave, Velith said softly. Or very stupid. I cannot decide which. Both, Myrae replied without looking at her. He is both. Do-hyun entered the arena through a small gate. He wore simple clothes, nothing that would slow him down or catch on anything. His body was bare from the waist up, showing the scars that covered his skin like a map of violence. The aliens stared. They had expected a soft creature. Instead, they saw someone who had clearly survived many battles. He walked to the center of the arena and stopped. His face was calm. His breathing was slow and steady. Inside his mind, he was already fighting. Then the crowd roared. Haifang Rethgar emerged from the opposite gate. He was even larger than he had seemed in the council chamber. nearly 3 meters tall, with scales like armor and claws like knives. His tail swept behind him, thick with muscle. His eyes were fixed on Do-yoon with the focus of a predator that has spotted prey. "You came," Rethker said, sounding almost pleased. "I half expected you to run during the night." "I do not run," Do-yoon replied. A Velith official approached them carrying weapons. "You may each choose your arms," he announced. "The fight continues until one yields or dies." Rethker chose a curved blade as long as Do-yoon's entire body. It was a traditional Morkai weapon, designed to cut through armor and bone with equal ease. He swung it through the air, and it made a sound like wind through dead trees. Do-yoon looked at the weapons offered to him. Swords, axes of clubs. He picked up a simple knife, no longer than his forearm. The crowd laughed. Rethker's eyes narrowed. "You mock me?" The Morkai growled. "No," said Do-yoon. "I prepare." The Velith official raised a flag. "The combat will begin when this flag touches the ground. May your blood honor the arena." The flag fell. Rethker moved first. He was impossibly fast for something so large. His blade came down like lightning, aimed at splitting Do-yoon in half from head to toe. Do-yoon was not there. He rolled to the side at the last moment, the blade passing so close that it cut the air next to his ear. He came up running, trying to get behind the massive creature. Rethker spun and swung again. This time, the blade caught Do-yoon across the arm. Blood sprayed across the sand. The crowd cheered. Do-yoon did not stop. He kept moving, circling, never staying in one place long enough for Rethker to get a clean hit. His arm was bleeding badly, but he ignored it. Pain was just information. Pain told him he was still alive. The Morkai attacked again and again. His blade opened a cut across Do-yoon's chest. It sliced into his leg. Blood covered his body, turning the sand beneath his feet into red mud. But Do-yoon would not fall. Myrae watched with tears in her eyes. She wanted to look away but could not. This was what Earth had sent. Not a politician or a diplomat. A man who would bleed and suffer and keep fighting because that was what humans did. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. The crowd grew quieter. This was not supposed to happen. The human should have been dead within seconds. Instead, he was still moving, still fighting, still refusing to give up. Rethker was breathing hard now. He was not used to battles that lasted this long. His opponents usually died quickly. This small creature, this impossible human, was making him work for every drop of blood. "Why won't you die?" Rethker snarled. Do-yoon did not answer. He was watching, learning, waiting. Every attack showed him something. Rethker favored overhead strikes. He exposed his throat when he lunged forward. He was right-handed and tended to leave his left side open after a big swing. The Morkai attacked again, a massive horizontal sweep that would have cut Do-yoon in half. Do-yoon ducked under it and got close, slashing at Rethker's leg with his knife. The blade opened a shallow cut in the scales. Rethker roared in surprise and pain. He kicked out, catching Do-yoon in the chest and sending him flying across the arena. Do-yoon hit the ground hard and slid through the sand. For a moment, he did not move. The crowd held its breath. Slowly, painfully, Do-yoon pushed himself up. He spat blood onto the sand and looked at Rethker with eyes that burned like stars. "Is that all?" He asked. Something changed in Rethker's expression. For the first time, there was doubt. Not fear exactly, but uncertainty. He had faced many opponents in his life. None of them had ever gotten back up after a hit like that. "What are you?" The Morkai whispered. "Human," Do-yoon replied. "Just human." He raised his knife and attacked. Rethker swung to meet him, but this time, Do-yoon was ready. He slid under the blade, getting inside Rethker's reach where the long weapon was useless. His knife flashed once, twice, 3 times, opening cuts in the soft scales of Rethker's belly. The Morkai screamed and brought his elbow down, catching Do-hyun on the shoulder. Bones cracked. Do-hyun ignored the pain and drove his knife deep into Rethker's side. They fell together, rolling across the bloody sand. Rethker dropped his sword and grabbed Do-hyun with his clawed hands, squeezing, trying to crush the life out of him. Do-hyun felt his ribs cracking. He could not breathe. Darkness gathered at the edges of his vision, but his knife hand was free. He found Rethker's throat and pressed the blade against the soft scales there. One push, and the Morkai would be dead. Rethker felt the cold metal and froze. The arena was absolutely silent. "Yield," Do-hyun whispered. His voice was barely audible. Blood bubbled on his lips. "Yield, or we both die here." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, Rethker's grip loosened. The massive predator lay back on the sand, his chest heaving, his blood mixing with Do-hyun's in the arena dirt. "I yield," Rethker said. His voice was filled with something that might have been respect. "The human wins." The crowd exploded. Aliens screamed and shouted, unable to believe what they had seen. Some cheered. Some cursed. Many simply stared in stunned silence. Do-hyun rolled off Rethker and lay on his back, staring up at the distant ceiling. His body was broken. He had one, but the cost had been terrible. Mireille ran onto the arena floor and knelt beside him. "Medics are coming," she said, her voice shaking. "You're going to be okay." Do-hyun smiled weakly. "Did they see?" Everyone saw. Good. His eyes closed. Then it was worth it. Alien medics arrived and began working on his wounds. As they carried him away, Do-hyun looked over at Rethker. The massive Morkai was being treated by his own medics, but his eyes were on the human. "You are insane," Rethker called out. "All of your species must be insane." Do-hyun laughed, even though it hurt. "Maybe, but at least we are honest about it." He let the darkness take him. When he woke up, everything would be different. Do-hyun woke in a room that smelled of strange medicines. The light was soft and warm, very different from the cold darkness of the primitive wing. He tried to move and felt pain shoot through every part of his body. But he was alive. That was more than he had expected. A Veleth physician stood beside his bed, adjusting machines that beeped and hummed. It looked up when Do-hyun stirred. "You are awake," it said. "Good. We were not sure you would survive the night." "How long?" Do-hyun asked. His voice was rough. 3 days. Your injuries were severe. 4 broken ribs. A fractured shoulder. Internal bleeding. Multiple cuts that required deep repair. The Veleth paused. "You should have died. By all medical understanding, you should have died." Do-hyun managed a weak smile. "Humans are stubborn. That is one word for it." The physician made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Insane is another. Your pain tolerance alone is beyond anything in our records. Most species would have gone into shock after the first few wounds. You kept fighting for nearly 15 minutes. The door opened and Mireille entered. Her face lit up when she saw Do-hyun awake. She rushed to his bedside and took his hand, then seemed to remember herself and stepped back professionally. "Sir, you're awake." "So I am told." Do-hyun looked around the room. It was larger and cleaner than their quarters in the primitive wing. "Where are we?" "The medical center in the council sector." "They moved you here after the fight." Mireille paused. "A lot has changed in 3 days. Tell me." Mireille pulled up a chair and sat down. The arena fight was broadcast across the entire station. Millions of beings watched you nearly die rather than surrender. The footage has spread to every corner of the galaxy by now. Do-hyun nodded slowly. This was what he had wanted. The Morkai have withdrawn their opposition to humanity, Myray continued. Rethker himself made the announcement. He called you the bravest warrior he has ever faced. He said any species that produces soldiers like you deserves respect. And the others? The Kron have requested bilateral discussions. They respect endurance, and you showed plenty of that. The Dasari are still proud and difficult, but even they have stopped calling us children. Myray smiled slightly. Grand Arbiter Veleth wants to meet with you personally. She has withdrawn the protected status offer. Doan let out a long breath. 3 days ago, humanity had been alone against 12 empires. Now, slowly, things were changing. What about Earth? He asked. The Council has been in contact with Admiral Beak. She sends her congratulations and her orders. We are to negotiate the best deal we can get. Maray's eyes sparkled. She also said to tell you that you have terrible form in a knife fight. But she supposes it worked out anyway. Dohin actually laughed at that, though it hurt his ribs terribly. A week later, Dohyun was well enough to walk. He was not fully healed. He probably would never be fully healed, but he could stand and move and speak. That was enough. Grand Arbiter Veleth received him in her private chambers, a beautiful room filled with flowing water and gentle lights. She floated in her tank, watching him with ancient eyes as he entered. Please sit, she said, gesturing to a chair designed for oxygen breathers. Your injuries are still healing. Donghyun sat carefully. His body protested, but he kept his face calm. You have made your point, Veleth said without ceremony. Humanity cannot be bullied. You have shown the galaxy what you are willing to sacrifice for your freedom. She paused. It was impressive, if reckless. It was necessary, Dohyun replied. Yes, perhaps it was. Veleth swam closer to the glass of her tank. But strength alone does not guarantee survival in this galaxy. The Markai respect you now, but respect fades. The Kron are curious, but curiosity passes. If humanity wants to truly join the galactic community, you will need more than courage. You will need allies. You will need wisdom. You will need patience. Doyen nodded. We know. That is why we sent 2 representatives. On cue, the door opened and Mireille entered. She bowed respectfully to Veleth. My colleague is a warrior, Doyen said. She is a diplomat. I showed the galaxy what humanity will do when pushed. She will show them what we can do when welcomed. Veleth studied Mireille for a long moment. You speak 14 of our languages, she said. 15 now, Mireille replied. I have been studying the Sari. Something like amusement flickered in Veleth's eyes. Very well. Protected status is withdrawn. We will negotiate with humanity as equals, or at least as near equals. It will take time for the elder races to truly accept you. Many of them have viewed humans as primitives for centuries. That view will not change overnight. We understand, said Mireille. We are patient when we need to be. I hope so. Veleth turned to look at Doyen one more time. I have lived for 400 years. I have seen many species rise and fall. Some burned bright and then faded. Others grew slowly but lasted forever. I wonder which type humanity will be. Doyun met her eyes. So do we. But whatever we become, we will do it on our own terms. The negotiations took 3 more weeks. There were arguments and compromises. There were moments when everything nearly fell apart. But in the end, a treaty was signed. Humanity would keep its fleet and its colonies. They would have trade rights and travel rights and a voice. However small, in the galactic community. It was not everything they had wanted. But it was a start. On the day of their departure, Dohyun and Mireille walked through Nexus Prime one last time. The aliens who had mocked them before now watched with different eyes. Some nodded in respect. A few even greeted them by name. Rethker met them at the docking bay. His wounds had healed faster than Do-hyun's, but scars remained. They would both carry marks from that fight forever. "You are leaving," the Morkai said. "Our work here is done for now," Do-hyun replied. "We will return." Rethker made a sound deep in his chest. "I look forward to it. Perhaps next time we can fight on the same side. Perhaps." Do-hyun extended his hand, a human gesture of friendship. Rethker looked at it for a moment, then reached out with his own massive clawed hand and shook it gently. "The galaxy is changing," Rethker said. "Your species has started something that cannot be stopped. I hope you are ready for what comes next." "So do I," Do-hyun admitted. The hanging departed Nexus Prime as the station's lights glittered behind them. Myre stood beside Do-hyun on the observation deck, watching the massive structure grow smaller and smaller. "Do you think we succeeded?" she asked. Do-hyun considered the question carefully. "We survived. We earned a seat at the table. We showed them that humans are not to be dismissed." He paused. "Whether we succeeded depends on what happens next. The hard work is just beginning." "That sounds exhausting." "It will be." Do-hyun finally allowed himself to smile. "But that is what we do. We keep going. We keep pushing. No matter how tired we are, no matter how much it hurts, we never give up." Myre nodded slowly. "That is what makes us human." "Yes," Do-hyun agreed. "That is what makes us human." The Hangang flew on through the darkness, carrying 2 humans back toward Earth. Behind them, 12 species were learning to recalculate their view of the universe. Humanity had arrived, not as conquerors or as servants, but as something new. Something the galaxy had never seen before. It would take years, maybe centuries, for the elder races to truly accept them. There would be more challenges, more battles, more sacrifices. But Do-hyun knew that humanity would face them the same way they had faced everything else. Together. Stubborn, unbreakable. The stars waited ahead, full of dangers and wonders and possibilities. Humanity was ready.